Here we go. Oh, can't leave Ember in
And
the
there's
back.
Ember.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Nice
Oh,
top. Is that a top or dress? What's
yeah.
going
We're
on?
getting the whole team's here.
Hey, the whole student. Come on. Sabrina are sitting backstage saying, is anybody going to come in?
I would have framed it as we were worried about you guys, but we went ahead and started the show without you. But yeah, we can go with that.
We weren't that worried.
Yeah. We were worried, but not that worried.
Yeah. We figured we'd
All
just
right.
fire it off anyway. So we got Captive Desk is here. Lola Lazuli. Oh my goodness.
Lola Lazuli. I like that. Oh,
We lost to Carly.
Right.
no, we lost to Carly and gained to
And Carly's
Carly.
back. It's a
TC
shape-shifting Carly.
and Scott the Stupidity and Christina. Hey, thanks everybody
Hey,
coming in here.
hey. We appreciate you.
Does
Can't wait
anybody
to
have
get you all
any
some.
info on going expat? I don't know. Well, you're close to the border.
Yeah, I'm near the border. I'm like a hop, skip, and a jump away from Mexico. I thought the butterfly would look cute, but from this distance, it just looks like a zet.
Oh no!
Thanks everyone for coming. Go tell your friends. Get them all in here. Well, let's have a party. What the hell? Let's go.
Yeah, use that
Yes.
share button, folks. Let's all be queer and do crimes. I mean,
Be queer.
in Minecraft.
Well, unfortunately,
Mm.
we're being criminalized, so it's hard to escape that.
I'm in
true.
Texas, so just going outside could
Yeah.
soon be a criminal offense for me.
That's right. You're a felon just for like being under the
Existing.
sky. Yeah.
Yeah, right. What about all those Republicans that cross-dress in
we
their
have
bedrooms?
the,
Are they?
Hooligan is in here, and my goodness, thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Yes, everybody's showing up. Good to see everybody.
I like it.
Hey, I wanted to show you guys something I thought was pretty awesome. Y'all tell me what you think. This came up in on my feed, but I thought it was adorable and honestly, perfect casting. Check this out.
Indeed.
Hunter Schafer has been fan cast as Princess Zelda in the upcoming live action. Listen to the fans, please. She's basically born for this role. She is Zelda. But I was, I thought so, but apparently not everybody thought so because this wolf guy, where'd he go? There he is. This guy, he was all like, call me old fashioned, but I prefer my female roles to be played by those without penises. Because you know how all the times in Zelda, when Zelda pulls her penis out and it's part of the plot and part of the story, when she pulls her vagina out, it's got to be her. When Zelda pulls her vagina out throughout the game, it's Hunter Schafer can't do that. So
we all
why
remember.
are they so obsessed with genitals?
We all remember all the way back at the original Legend of Zelda, the NES cartridge with the gold one. You got the special edition set that came with it and everything. Very first game, critical to gameplay, is finding and blowing the warp whistle.
Yes.
Time has passed me by. I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about.
It's a 90s or 80s. I guess it came out in what, 87?
Yeah, it was like 19.
I don't know.
I was going to say 86, but around there, yeah.
Yeah. It was like one of the original NES, Nintendo Entertainment Center games, the console games made by Nintendo. And Link and Zelda.
Time passed me by after Pong. Come on now.
In fairness,
really.
Anybody who was an adult in the 80s, I do not blame you at all for skipping them. Just go directly to the 90s. Screw this nonsense.
Well, depends on how much cocaine you had access to. You might have skipped them involuntarily.
Yeah, well.
But we actually there was Pong
those days. Oh my god.
There was Pong at that arcade bar that we went to last Saturday with Dr. Ben was there.
They had an old Pong set. That's
yes, it was. They had a tabletop one, and then they had a giant Pac-Man on the wall, giant Pac-Man game on the wall. They had like 14 pinball machines. It was fun. I love pinball machines.
Pinball. See, that was my jam. My jam was pinball. Like
When you come out here to visit us, we're taking you there.
There was a great pinball machine called Xanadu. If you all recall the Olivia Newton-John film Xanadu, there was a pinball machine on that theme, and it was really quite something. It was good.
My aunt had
the physical, the ability to manipulate the game in a physical way. Like, you can move the machine, but you better not tilt. That's
my aunt had a Frazetta machine, a Frank Frazetta painting machine that had like a barbarian maiden and a winged lion. I always thought it was the coolest thing. But I love playing pinball and pool too. I love playing pool. I'm not saying I'm good at either of them, but I love playing them. Yeah. All right. Well, I just thought that Hunter Schafer thing was just funny and perfect casting. I hope they listen to the fans, but we'll see what happens.
Totally
She's a dead ringer, right?
Kentucky atheist people coming in here. This is awesome. Thanks so much, Joe.
Go
we love you.
Yeah, Raid.
And let's don't forget the ARC encounter.
ARC fundraiser. Yeah, the fundraiser. Yeah. That's April 9th, right, Joe? So yeah, we're just days away.
Yeah.
Fundraiser for the big protest over on the Kentucky Atheist channel here on YouTube.
And yeah, protest.
The Kentucky.
We're all about that up in here.
That's right. It's a fundraiser.
Does that mean that the Kentucky Atheist, isn't that a horse that's running in the Derby this year?
It could be that too.
Kentucky Atheist.
It would be good.
Yeah.
All right. So did you? I don't know if y'all are caught up on this story or not. I'm willing to suffer for rights, says trans woman arrested for using the women's toilet. First person to ever get arrested for this in Florida.
I find that amazing that she's the very first, but I mean, cool, I guess. But she like made sure she sent letters and shit ahead of time. I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm just like, this is a weird story.
Well, I was gonna read Sophie's write up on it. Yeah, you all can definitely put your input in. As always, I'll go through about a paragraph and then we'll pause for commentary. What we do basically around here is we editorialize news that affects trans people. So if that's what you're into, stick around because
we present the stories and we try to link them, but we do the shade.
Yeah, we're all very opinionated and we're all long-winded. So, yeah.
Well,
we have a lot to say.
Now.
A transgender woman who was arrested after washing her hands in the toilet of the Florida Capitol is.
They were man hands, obviously.
You've heard of the measles outbreaks in Texas. In Florida, you get arrested if you wash your damn hands.
Somebody inspected the 2D/4D ratio under the soap dispenser. Wait a minute.
20-year-old Marcy I'm going to say it's Reinchin, but I'm not sure. Reinchin from Illinois was arrested for trespassing after she made state officials aware that she had planned to use the facility in protest of the law, which bans trans women from female toilets. In 2023, facility requirements based on Sex Act makes it a misdemeanor offense for someone to use single-sex spaces such as toilets or change rooms that do not align with their biological sex at birth. Yeah, when you change those spaces from men's and women's to male and female, yeah, that's what happens. But that's not how society has ever been run before. It's what Florida doesn't seem to wrap their head around here. But it's Florida.
It is Florida.
The charge is a second-degree misdemeanor, which can be punished with up to 60 days in jail. Reinchin was released after 24 hours, having never thought she would be taken into custody, and now must find a way to return to the Sunshine State for court hearings.
Or not.
Yeah,
Because it's
or
a
not.
misdemeanor. What are they going to do?
You know,
It-
part of the whole thing about civil disobedience, and you know, if you go and read the history and all of that stuff, is you kind of expect to be taken into custody because that's the idea. The whole thing is you're highlighting how ridiculous all these laws are. So,
And how cool would it be to be like, you know, as a trans person, you can physically go to Florida, but you really can't go to Florida. And so you could be wandering around for years from now. She could be wandering around saying, "Yeah, I'm an outlaw. I'm wanted in Florida."
you know,
The Florida outlaw. That's kind of has a nice ring to it.
I got a Florida story. You want a Florida story?
Is it about being an outlaw in Florida?
A little bit, yeah. The J24 Worlds were in Miami, and we were down at the Worlds, and my friend Rebecca, who is also from Maine, and I were in the parking lot, and Rebecca has a cousin who lives in Florida. Unbeknownst to me, her cousin is a fucking county sheriff's deputy. And we're in the parking lot, and I'm saying, "Hey, Beck, you want to smoke a bowl?" And she's standing right there. It's like, "Hey, you know, it's illegal."
What could possibly go wrong?
No, nothing at all. But you know, her cousin was cool and was everything. Everything was lovely. But it's just Jesus Christ. Anyway, that was my Florida story. Move on, please.
In a statement exclusively given to Pink News, she admitted being really scared of what was going to happen. She went on to say, "I'll likely go to a men's prison for a long time where I'll be forcibly detransitioned, have my head shaved, and probably be raped. It's a horrifying and morally abhorrent that when we see different and unique members of society, our first instinct is to imprison them." Some people have suggested.
Unstillborn has a question in the chat. Says, so everyone has to have their birth certificate on them at all times. Well, remember when North Carolina passed the first bathroom bill? I took my birth certificate with me on the trip south to Florida in 2016, I believe it was, just to be sure that if somebody gave me any shit, I had it. It was great.
Some people have suggested I be imprisoned for life or should have to register as a sex offender or be killed, and it makes me sick. Rydigen said, even some transgender people were critical of her actions because of the way in which she went about the act of civil disobedience. Most Americans these days are angry and miserable and have a lust for vengeance that they simply can no longer quench in their personal life. So they take it out on those who are smaller than them, those who cannot fight back. We haven't just seen this with radical and violent transphobia. We've seen it with the rise in anti-Semitism and the disgust and contempt for immigrants, and the way people have begun to speak about the most vulnerable among us. Yeah, they're really excited about being able to say that R word again. People are rejoicing for that. Or the F slur. People are super happy about being able to say that F slur again. Think it's okay because Trump's in charge.
Kill it. The president says we can.
Well, President Musk approves it too. So both the presidents think it's okay. People have asked about my ideology, and it's simple: dignity. My ideology is dignity. You don't have to be pro-trans to believe in this. You don't have to be pro-gay or pro-Jew or pro-immigrant or pro-black. You just have to be pro-dignity. You have to be pro-humanity. I don't
there's
believe
the
people.
problem.
Yeah. Oh no, not humanity, not pro-humanity. I don't believe people should be imprisoned for their immutable characteristics. I don't think I should rot in a cell because I'm transgender, even if I was uppity enough to use the bathroom that people don't like. Uppity, that's a good word for it.
I love it.
That puts it into perspective. That frames it for us. Don't get uppity now, trans people. Actually, I shouldn't. I'll talk about it after the show, maybe. But I have a personal story about being told that I'm being awful uppity for being trans in Texas. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to share it here.
Bree, you got called uppity?
Yeah.
Wow, they're bringing that one back. Oh, I thought they only used that on us colored folks.
Right.
Bringing
I know.
everything back.
I felt like,
everything, you know, it's like, geez.
I actually had to look in the mirror to make sure that they didn't think I was someone from African ancestry, right? Because that's usually who these uppity white bitches call uppity.
Well,
you got to know your place.
Well, Bree, you got to understand. You in the Confederate. You ain't upstates now. You in the Confederacy.
Yeah.
You're not upstate. You're not upstate now.
I'm really west though. Yeah. But there is a culture clash here too. The local Hispanic population are really accepting and kind of just chill. She has
because they realize Texas is really home. See, that's why we should be worried about the southern border, because all the people that are coming over, they're not immigrants, they're coming home.
Right. This used to be Mexico, mofo. Yeah. Before you annexed it. And the people didn't move, the border moved. So, and if you move the border and half their families on one side and half the families on the other, then you can't be mad that they want to come across the border and be with their families, be with their peoples. All right. She had sent a letter to officials informing them that she was going to use a specific toilet in the Capitol building on the 19th of March in protest of the legislation, and included a photograph of herself for identification. I know that you know in your heart that this law is wrong and unjust, she wrote. I know that you know in your heart that transgender people are human too, and you can't arrest us away. I know that you know that I have dignity. That's why I know you won't arrest me. Well,
I mean,
unfortunately for Marcy,
tested the hypothesis.
Reinigen was allegedly met by two police officers outside the toilet, but she went in regardless and was arrested. Everything that is politics seems very abstract and philosophical from far away. This is the first time it really affected me. I got arrested and I got sent to jail because of Governor Ron DeSantis' policies. That's crazy. The Miami Herald quoted her as saying, a self-described moderate conservative, Reinigen, told Peak News that she does not believe God makes mistakes. I don't think he sees his children as a failure or disgusting. I think God loves all his children. Ultimately, if I go to prison, that's okay because he will protect me, she said. If I suffer as the result of it, he will use it to more deeply heal and purify my heart. No one ever talks about how suffering is redemptive and healing when you properly sanctify it. I'm willing to suffer for the trans community. I'm willing to suffer for the rights. I'm willing to suffer for dignity. Yeah. So
it seems a little bit odd to me that someone would not realize that engaging in an act of civil disobedience, which is an old tradition. I mean, Henry David Thoreau wrote a whole goddamn book about it, and practiced it. It's rather odd that someone wouldn't realize that well, she obviously knew she was breaking the law. She was making a statement, I think, to the officer, to the arresting officers. It's like, I know you believe in human dignity. I know you believe in the siblinghood of mankind, and you certainly want to arrest me for this because I'm just trying to take a piss and wash my hands. However, it's interesting, and I wonder. I wonder how the story was. I wonder if that's the real story there, or if she was actually making a point. But she did make a point, and I think it's more. I think it's tremendously important for people to make that point. When when unjust laws are passed, promulgated, when the state is depriving people of freedom for simply being who they are, I think it's really important for people to, if they can, where they can, and when they can, protest in that way. And it seems like what she's doing is, and what she's saying, what her declaration is that I'm willing to do this, which is admirable, regardless of her faith or anything else. She believes in justice and bending the arc towards that. So
Yeah, and sorry, I cannot shut up about Florida today, but
I just hope she has some good representation behind her.
yeah, so do I.
All right. So Florida's
Because
due
to be
to say.
blunt, you're about,
go ahead.
Because to be blunt, she's about to disappear and never be seen again.
That is true.
They'll make an example out of her, and that's what scares me. And that's why they talked. You talked a few minutes ago about people who question the tactic. I do. Not because it's not just or right, but from a tactical standpoint, this is one person taking a stand. I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the problem. Right now, transphobia is not a deal breaker for a majority of Americans. This is going to require numbers. If you really want to make a dent in DeSantis, fine. We need hundreds. They got to jail hundreds. Fill those jails. This should be a world. This should be this should be a worldwide issue. This should be a worldwide issue.
Great point, and the reason I'm saying it's a great point is because that's the reason, in my opinion, that's the reason this stuff is so effective, because our numbers are that small. There's not going to be a mass of trans people massing to do this.
This is why it's going to take allies again to open your mouth.
Again, exactly.
If you're truly an ally, you've got to step into it. There's no getting around it.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about 0.2% of the population, that's not like we're not, 0.2 to 1% of the population. That's not inconsequential in terms of raw numbers, but it is inconsequential in terms of why would anybody care? And you gotta care. Otherwise, we do in fact disappear, as Carly said. That's the thing. I know it's uncomfortable. I know people get pissed off when I say it, but it's the truth.
Florida's new Don't Say Gay or Trans bill would encourage workplace misgendering. Who's ready for that? The Florida Senate has advanced a bill that would give free license to employers to misgender, transgender, and non-binary employees. Senate Bill 440, or SB 440, prohibits public employers from requiring employees to use trans people's preferred pronouns, and would also prohibit employers from being required to use trans workers' preferred pronouns. The bill would also remove non-binary as an option from job applications and other employment forms, and would make it illegal to require LGBTQ plus cultural competence training. So Florida's always been the testing ground for this nonsense, though, right? Sometimes Missouri, or sometimes Texas, but usually Florida. Lastly, the bill strengthens protections for homophobes and transphobes, specifically that it is unlawful for employers to take action against employees for a belief in traditional or biblical views of sexuality and marriage, or the employees or contractors' disagreement with gender ideology. So I remind you all, we have for the Gays Against Groomers crowd. Is this another one of our Cassandra truths here? Is that what we're doing? We should just change our channel name to Cassandra, because that's what we do. We make predictions and everybody's like, no, that's not gonna happen. That's not how this works. You guys are being paranoid. You're leftist extremists, some nonsense like that. They keep doing it.
If anything, the predictions that you hear on this channel and other places where you can find us tend to be overly optimistic. But
yeah,
this particular law, holy crap, just throwing right out the Bible, right in the law, the way to just completely violate the First Amendment. Super, good job.
What if a woman not wearing a woman exposing any of her skin offends you because of your strongly held belief in the Quran? How's that play out? Because that's a gendered expression, right? That's an expression of your gender identity, is for a woman in that culture to be completely covered, right? So
these Americans with their gender ideology, thinking women can like travel in public without their head fully covered
and without an escort. Wow. Yeah.
So let's see if we can turn Bree down a little bit.
Am I loud?
You're clipping like crazy.
Saying you're loud.
I asked before we started.
I know, and it sounded fine to me. But maybe you're just being a touch expressive.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. I'm having a day today.
Yeah, it's all right. So am I. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah. The Senate appeared to table SB 440 2 weeks ago after extensive pushback from the public. Per The Advocate, activists have dubbed the legislation the Don't Say Gay or Trans at Work bill, named after Florida's infamous 2022 Don't Say Gay bill that banned instruction on LGBTQ plus topics in grades K through 12 in public schools. According to the blog Florida Politics, over 1,000 public comment cards regarding the legislation were submitted, which led the committee to decline to hear the bill. But Senator of the Government Oversight and Accountability Committee voted 5-2 in favor of Senate Bill 440 last Tuesday, per Florida Politics. Florida State Senator Kristen Arrington, a Democrat who voted against the bill, told The Advocate that the bill really does promote government employees and contractors to harass transgender individuals by allowing them to intentionally misgender them by using disrespectful pronouns and having no consequences. She added that it gave people a license to discriminate free from accountability. That's really the bottom line, though, isn't it? That's the goal.
That is the goal, but they're doing it in the stupidest way possible because they're completely fucking incompetent. Notice the way the bill is worded. There can be no repercussions for misgendering people. Not misgendering trans people. They're just assuming it'll only be trans people. You can call anybody anything and simply say you reject their gender ideology or whatever fucking bullshit excuse you want. This is licensed to harass everyone.
And you can put any spin on you want. Oh, you're a man without a beard? Sorry, you're a woman until you grow a beard.
Yeah,
right?
that's valid under the terms of that law.
Yeah, which is certain religious beliefs is that well, you're not a woman, but you're a boy. You're not a man, right?
It's gone beyond absurd. It's absolutely gone beyond absurd, and it's and it literally the absurdity of it all exploded after the 5th of November. It just exploded in every sphere. I mean, it's like screening calls for the line. The number of people that got snippy about their fucking pronouns. Trump's the president now. I don't have to tell you how my pronouns work. I'm a man.
My pronouns are Trump self.
It's unbelievably stupid. It's just I guess I sort of understand why this is a big thing, just because people enjoy clutching their crotches and worrying about shit like this. But my God, it doesn't matter. It boggles my mind. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Sorry for swallowing the mic, everybody. I hope.
Hey, I've heard they're low calorie.
According to the Advocate, the Senate took up the bill again because of Florida Senator Randy Fine, who is currently running for Congress, is a candidate handpicked by President Donald Trump.
Unfortunately, the motherfucker won.
Yeah, per the South Florida Sun Sentinel, Fine is looking to replace former U.S. House District 6 Representative Michael Waltz, who is now Trump's head of national security. That's the guy. That's signal guy. Signal guy. Waltz. Yeah.
But that in that election, that election took place on Tuesday. That was a Trump plus 20 or something district, 20 plus Trump district. The guy won by only 3 points. People ain't buying this shit. Enough people are buying this shit to keep them going, but that's a huge swing. His opponent almost beat him. Just saying.
Almost.
Gives me hope.
It's almost only counts in freaking hand grenades and horseshoes stuff. I'm just saying.
And in post election that we have here, except in Maine, we have ranked choice.
Ranked choice voting is preferable across the board. Make no mistake about it. Yeah, so though Fine did not introduce Senate Bill 440, he introduced bills that aimed to ban rainbow flags from government buildings and ban children from drag shows. And what is a drag show? Is it any live performance with? I can't even fathom that, because costumes and performing arts go hand in hand. How do you ban children from drag shows that doesn't ban them from theater in general?
Maybe they want to ban them from theaters. There will be no cultural enlightenment and enrichment for you. Get in your cage, child.
In fact, get in La Cage au Fall. Have fun.
All right. I also have, I guess we need to speed through these last few, but I also have this story here. This is coming to us from NBC News. A trans teacher in Texas resigns after being targeted by conservatives online. Who wants to guess which account was behind the targeting of this trans teacher?
We'll give you
lives on
3
TikTok.
guesses, but you only need 1. Hi, Chaya.
Rosie Sandry, who taught for 3 years at Red Oak High School, said she received death threats after libs of TikTok and the state lawmakers shared one of her social media videos. A transgender teacher in Texas resigns on Monday, less than a week after the state lawmakers called her to be fired over social media videos in which she talked about feeling supported by her students. I'm heartbroken, said Rosie Sandry, who taught sophomore English at Red Oak High School, just south of Dallas metro area, for 3 years. She said she had wanted to teach since she was 5 years old. When I signed the resignation, it felt like my dream was being taken away. Now you've just been living in the wrong state, sweetheart. You need to go. Go up
New York needs teachers. I'm sure the other states do too. Come on up.
Maine needs teachers. Illinois needs teachers. Yeah. I'm heartbroken. Hold on. That's what I just read. At Sandry, 33, came out as a trans woman about 7 months ago and said her colleagues at school in the Red Oaks Independent School District were very supportive. She said she never got up in front of her class and came out, but instead just started dressing differently. When students noticed and asked if they should call her by a different name or use different pronouns, she told them they could call her whatever they were comfortable with. The horror, giving the students rights to be decent, the option to be decent about it. Not forcing them to, just saying, hey, whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah, letting them, giving the children the chance to act decently about this. But the state couldn't have that. She didn't tell them that she preferred she, her pronouns, but added, if you don't agree with that, you feel comfortable or feel uncomfortable with that, you're not going to hurt my feelings by calling me whatever you want. After she came out, Sandry started sharing her videos of her experience as a trans woman and teacher on TikTok. She said she filmed some of the videos in her classroom after school hours. She had about 150 followers prior to last week. And last Wednesday, social media account Libs of TikTok, who won the gold sticker for that? I think everybody won a gold sticker. For everybody who figured that out.
Everyone gets a sticker.
Yeah, participation trophies all around.
Except for Riley Gaines.
Yeah, she can be in 5th place.
She has to share her sticker with Leah Thomas.
Real American transphobe. Riley Gaines has to share everything she ever wins from now on for the rest of her days with Leah, no matter what she does.
She should too. Like, as much as she cannot go 10 minutes without talking about Leah and
or
her
Leah's
entire career. Right? She owes every bit of fame and fortune she has right now to the fact Leah exists. Like, she absolutely should be splitting proceeds.
And still lives in her head rent free.
Yes. Real American transphobe. Last Wednesday, the social media account Libs of TikTok, which has millions of followers, singles out LGBTQ people and their employers for promoting inclusivity, shared one of Sandry's TikTok videos in which she talks about gender euphoria, or the positive feeling trans people experience when their gender identity and expression align. At school today, I'm surrounded by kids. I teach sophomores, and I have these 15, 16-year-olds who are completely on board, who, when I told them I had changed my pronouns, jumped right into it. Sandry said in the March 18th video, they call me ma'am, they call me miss, they use my correct pronouns and know my correct name, and it is incredibly affirming.
Love that.
In the post about Sandry, Libs of TikTok used her previous legal name, a practice called dead naming that is widely considered offensive among the trans community, and also misgendered her and asked, would you feel comfortable with this person teaching your kids? The account also shared a screenshot of one of Sandry's posts about different kinds of LGBTQ pride flags, saying she was pushing the content on her public TikTok where students can follow her.
How dare she talk about things in her own freaking channel?
Yeah, and of
Free
course,
speech.
Don't have a life. Take my advice. Just don't have a life. Perfect.
State Representative Brian Harrison, who represents Red Oak, where the school is located, shared Libs of TikTok's post on X and demand that Sandry be immediately terminated.
Oh, if only they'd gone that route instead. Because, you know, it's a long side discussion, but most of you already know there's a pretty significant legal difference between being terminated and resigning.
Public schools and their property taxes that fund them are for education, not leftist indoctrination, Harrison wrote.
In other words, anything right.
Hunting the poor for sport.
Anything she disagrees with is liberal indoctrination. I mean,
no, it's not liberal, it's leftist. There's a difference.
Whatever.
Leftist indoctrination. Public schools and their property taxes that fund them are, there we go. Kaya Rychek, a far-right activist who runs Libs of TikTok account, did not reply to request for comment. In an email statement,
she doesn't give a shit about the mainstream media because they're fucking irrelevant to anybody at this point in time.
In an email statement, Harrison said he is proud to have helped deliver this victory to protect Texas students from what? Protect them from what?
What victory? She resigned.
Public schools are for education, not indoctrination, he said. Any teacher who claims to get gender euphoria from their minor students and teachers and teaches them that boys can become girls should be terminated immediately. Because it's because he doesn't understand what gender euphoria is. He thinks it's something sexual.
He doesn't understand what education is.
Yeah, you know, I think there's where did the gender euphoria comment, I think, was, you know, her private stuff. I mean, not really.
Yeah, it's not like she was saying this at school. She wasn't even using that
right.
language at school. While Sandry said she never taught her students about transitioning and allowed them to address her however they felt comfortable, Harrison's spokesperson alleged Sandry abused her position by coercing the students into calling her the wrong gender. Coercion. By dressing a certain way, you're coercing people now.
Texans
why was she wearing
that? Harrison jerk makes me wish would have made me root for Santa Anna back in 1836.
Yeah, no kidding.
Remember the Alamo?
Well, this is the kind of guy who you tell him about someone getting raped and they're like, oh, well, what was she wearing? You know, why was she dressed that way?
I'm going to be honest with you. If Texas wants to secede, let them.
Yeah.
Let them.
Yeah.
These are the
Sandry
people.
said,
These are the people. Every hearing on all this stuff. These are the people who badmouth my state. You know
Yep.
what? Connecticut may not be perfect. Yeah, we may be a bunch of.
It's not
Woke
perfect.
Yankees.
Massachusetts is perfect. Give me a
We're a
break.
bunch of woke. We're a bunch of woke Yankees up here, but we have a working electric grid. You think about it. Transgender people didn't mess up your electric grid. You aren't the reason why your schools are ranked what 46th. They aren't
It's
the
the
reason
special
why.
textbooks.
They aren't the reason why you have textbooks with kids who try to explain slavery, that are telling kids that slavery was a guest worker program. I am sick and tired of states like Texas and Florida actively trying to dictate and feel that they should dictate the way the rest of the country does things. And
Yeah.
also being a sports journalist, I have a question. Why in the world would the next college football playoff national championship game be in Florida? Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Of course it shouldn't.
You know, you have people complaining about the fact that the Rugby World Cup in 2035 will be played in the Middle East, but no one seems to have a problem with the upcoming FIFA World Cup games being played in Florida and Texas, with rounds of the Formula One World Championship in Florida and Texas, with the NFL looking to put Super Bowl 63 and 64 in Florida and Texas. Or the fact,
you know, Carly, it was only 9 years ago that many sports organizations didn't hold their finals in North Carolina because of the bathroom bill. This is how far the system has shifted.
Yep. And I'll tell you the truth. Why should the United States be allowed to hold an Olympics?
yeah,
I'll tell you the truth.
I think that the people should be boycotting the Los Angeles Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
They're talking about not letting in cisgender athletes who don't meet a certain standard.
All right, let me wrap this
And
one
let's
up.
be honest. Let's be honest. When we say cisgender athletes, we're talking about cisgender women.
Right? Oh yeah, you're right.
And the certain standards are established by cisgender men.
The same, Sandry said that she was out sick last Wednesday when Libs of TikTok initially shared her video, but that she started receiving threats and harassment to her personal and school email account and on social media shortly after. The same day, she said she called the Human Resource Department at Red Oak Independent School District, and the deputy superintendent told her the school had received threats as well. She said the deputy superintendent told her she would be placed on administrative leave for 2 days while the school investigated. On Monday, she said she came to an agreement with the school that she would resign. She said she can't discuss the details of the conversation as part of the agreement and that the school didn't tell her she had violated any policy. In an email sent to the school staff members Monday and obtained by NBC News, Beth Trimble, the chief communication officer for the district, reminded educators of the district's social media policy. Your freedom of speech is not free of consequence. If it results in a disruption of your ability to do your job, the email said, it also directed staff members to refrain from posting during school and work hours. In an email to NBC News, Trimble said the message sent to staff members Monday was not related to Sandry's resignation. She did not answer questions about whether Sandry violated any of the district's policies, Sandry's account of events, or whether the school asked Sandry to resign. I decided yesterday the best option was to resign for the safety of myself and even for the safety of the school, Sandry said. adding that she doesn't hold any ill will against the school or the district, which were supportive throughout her transition. I was out as transgender for 7 months, and parents, staff, admin, nobody had a problem, she said. I wasn't causing a disruption. It was not people in the school or directly in the community that were causing a problem. It was these outside people. That's the thing too, because they don't know you, and they just want to paint you as a. They don't want to know you. They want to use you as a scapegoat of sorts to point at, say, look what the world's coming to. You need to put us in charge.
Yeah, and it's always a very small group of people acting excessively. Like, remember the threats with the Boston Children's Hospital when they traced those phone calls? It turned out to be like 3 people in different states that just kept calling over and over.
Also began with chiropractic.
Yeah. Libs of TikTok has repeatedly posted about teachers who have shared LGBTQ inclusive content on social media, igniting harassment against these teachers and their schools. Last year, an Oklahoma teacher who performed in drag outside of work resigned after Libs of TikTok posted about him, and the local superintendent subsequently called for him to be fired. Monday, March 31st, the day Sandry resigned, was coincidentally Trans Day of Visibility.
Oh,
An annual awareness day dedicated to celebrating trans people's accomplishments and acknowledging the violence and discrimination the community faces. Sandry was Sandry's first Trans Day of Visibility out as a trans woman. That's sad.
it's significant though, because like, as they said, part of it is to acknowledge the discrimination, and here she is being discriminated against on the day itself even.
People who said their children... Oh, go ahead, Steph.
It sort of ties into the I wonder how if people are stumbling into inadvertent protest, as the woman in Florida did, as perhaps this person did. And again, I think I'll go with Carly's thing. I hope they have good legal representation, because the numbers aren't there. It's good that the stories are there, because this is increasing visibility to the broader community, to say how outrageous this is. But my question to the broader community is, do you care? Do you care about us? And do you care enough to say something about us, about these injustices? Which is why we're bringing this to your attention. These are real people, and they're facing real consequences for their actions in being courageous enough, not brave, but courageous enough to make a stand.
All right, I'm gonna finish up this article, and then we'll give a quick rundown of what we got coming up in the rest of the show. And Ember's gonna go to bed because I can see her falling asleep right now.
I'm finishing my nails, actually.
Oh, people who said their children were in Sandry's class commented on her post about her resignation, saying they supported her. One person said Sandry was one of her son's favorite teachers. Sandry said she's unsure whether she'll be able to get another job as a teacher in Texas due to Harrison's post and the public attention she received. Yeah. As a result, she said she's considering taking legal action against Libs of TikTok, and people she said disparaged her and threatened the school. Libs of TikTok posted about Sandry's resignation. Big win. My message to Libs of TikTok is, you picked on the wrong one, Sandry said. the whole community stands behind me, and I don't care. And I'm lucky enough to have the privilege and that a lot of trans people don't have. So my message to everyone is don't make this about me. Go out there and help the trans people and LGBTQ IA community, because there are Black and brown trans people, there are trans youth, there are gay and lesbian people who are having their rights to marry threatened right now. Go out there and help these people.
Woo.
That was written by Joe Yerkuba of NBC Out.
Joe,
All right.
Yeah.
Joe, a
Joe's
valued
great.
colleague and a good friend.
Joe's great.
Oh, Fred?
Absolutely
Good.
great.
Joe's one of my favorite people in the journalism sphere. They're one of my favorite
Yeah.
people.
That's awesome.
And covers these stories exceptionally well.
All right. Ember, if you want to take a break from your nails for just a second to
We're done now. We're blue now.
okay.
Yay.
Are you sure?
To let us know what we have coming up in good news.
Yeah, Trans Day of Visibility was earlier this week, as previously mentioned, and it's mostly about that.
All right, awesome. Looking forward to it. Miss Carly, what's the sports look like today?
Tick, 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 tick. Tonight is a special 60 Minutes edition of TransPosition Sports, because this week I had the opportunity to talk to 3 trans athletes. 3 sit-down, in-depth interviews. One with Cody Smith. Cody Smith is a trans man who's a senior at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. He's a sprinter on the RPI track team. By the way, RPI is in the same conference as the Rochester Institute of Technology. Yeah, you probably heard of a certain trans woman who is a sprinter there. We talked to Cody Smith about the Sadie Schreiner influence on himself, his own journey, and his goals for his senior season as a trans dude who competes with the dudes and competes pretty well. Also, tonight we talked to Elle Young. Elle Young is a budding freshman track athlete at Brandeis University just outside of Boston.
My alma mater.
She was going to compete on the men's team this year, meet the NCAA requirements, and compete authentically in 2026. A certain ban on transgender women in women's athletics and at the college level kind of put the kibosh on those plans. We talked to her. And imagine, if you will, anti-trans hysteria hit a recreational tennis league in New York City. I kid you not. And the person at the center of this manufactured controversy, a young 25-year-old trans woman who lives in Brooklyn named Cammie Woodman. We sat down and got the insides on what really went on. Also, why Cammie loves tennis and why she's such a tennis fashionista. That and more to come on TransPosition Sports.
All right, Steph, what do you got for us?
I don't know. Maybe a brief takedown of Martina Navratilovan's latest bullshit. But
You're gonna do some fencing?
yeah, offensive fencing.
All right. Well, who's ready? Who is ready?
Carly's got the cattail in front of her face, which I think is really cool.
Who is ready for some good news then? Let's do it.
Let's go with that.
Woohoo!
Friends, today is Trans Visibility Day, a day to support our trans siblings. In honor of this day, we want to say to trans people everywhere, we see you. We see your struggles and the ways in which harmful rhetoric hurts you. We also see your dignity, your courage, and your grace. So this is a shout out from the Iowa Cabinet. We see you.
We see you as beloved children of God.
We see you as siblings of sacred worth.
We see you as honored and precious in God's sight.
We see you as created in the very image of God.
We see you as part of God's good creation.
We see you as fearfully and wonderfully made.
We see you as gifted servants of God.
We see you as valued members of our connection.
Trans Visibility Day is about awareness. It is about learning about the lives and witness of trans people and their families. Learning ourselves is a way to support this community and to break down the misunderstanding and the stereotyping, a way to combat the hate. It can literally be a way to save lives. Indeed, because of the bullying directed at them, trans youth are at a high risk for suicide. If you know someone who needs help, direct them to the Trevor Project, a crisis intervention network. Go to thetrevorproject.org. You can also find information through the Human Rights Campaign at www.hrc.org. God bless.
That was the Iowa United Methodist Church Administrative Group. Devout Christians in a state that recently made it legal to discriminate against transgender people and the first state in over 100 years to deliberately remove civil rights from a minority under active threat for ostensibly religious reasons. Why that is good news is simple. Their message, like so many others from so many religious leaders all around the country and across the world this week, show that faith does not mandate hate. We'll get into more of that, as well as other stories from Trans Day of Visibility coming up, because good news starts right now. On the 9th anniversary of the Stonewall riots, Harvey Milk gave a speech that applies shockingly well to today, almost 50 years later. By just updating the political figures and groups referenced, it highlights how closely the situation now parallels what was happening then. So let's do that, somewhat abridged for time. My name is Ember Belrad, and I want to recruit you. I want to recruit you for the fight to preserve your democracy from the Nancy Maces and the Dennis Pragers who are trying to constitutionalize bigotry. We are not going to allow that to happen. We are not going to sit back in silence as thousands of our trans sisters and brothers did in Nazi Germany. We are not going to allow our rights to be taken away and then march with bowed heads to the gas chambers. On this day of visibility, I ask my sisters and brothers to make the commitment to fight for themselves, for their freedom, for their country. Here in the USA, we recently held an election for the presidency. An anti-trans smear campaign was waged against a candidate who was silent on trans issues because she was supported by trans people. Here, in the so-called free United States, an anti-trans smear campaign was waged by so-called patriots. And here, in so-called freedom-loving USA, we have columnists for the so-called progressive newspaper, The New York Times, who have printed a number of columns containing distortions and lies about trans people. They're getting away with it. These anti-trans smear campaigns, these anti-trans columns, were laying the groundwork for Project 2025. We had better be prepared for it. In the Times, we are defamed. But in other outlets, we are warned to be quiet, told daily that talking about trans rights is counterproductive, To those so-called journalists, I say that the day we stop talking about freedom is the day we no longer have it. African Americans did not win their rights by sitting quietly in the back of the bus. They got off of it. The gays and lesbians did not win their rights by meekly and politely waiting for the straight folk to do the right thing. And a century ago, women did not win our right to vote by being demure. Rights that all are under attack right now, by the way, being rolled back state by state and at the federal level, while the people keep cheering about the harm being done to us. Trans people, we will not win our rights by staying quietly in our closets. We are coming out. We are coming out to fight the lies, the myths, the distortions. We are coming out to tell the truth about us. For I'm tired of the conspiracy of silence. I'm tired of listening to the Dennis Prager's and Matt Walsh's twist the language and meaning of the Bible to fit their own distorted outlook. But I'm even more tired of the silence from the religious leaders of this nation who know that they are playing fast and loose with the true meaning of the Bible. I'm tired of their silence more than of the biblical gymnastics. And I'm tired of Nancy Mace talking about false role models. She's lying in her teeth and she knows it. But I'm even more tired of the silence from legislators and officials who know that Mace is lying yet say nothing. I'm tired of their silence more than Mace's lies. I'm tired of the silence, so I'm going to talk about it. And I want you to talk about it. Trans people, we are often painted as groomers. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the myth of child molestations by trans folk. I want to talk about the fact that it is the same churches where we are most vilified where exactly that kind of abuse so frequently happens. I want to talk about the fact the Southern Baptists have to sell their Nashville headquarters to pay the court costs for all their child predation crimes. That's not even to pay the victims, just the court costs. I want to talk about how the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church, the Jehovah's Witnesses, and so many more have to sell off property to pay for the astronomical costs they have incurred and continue to incur as a consequence of the rampant abuse in their ranks. Every single day, another pastor or priest goes to jail for hurting kids. Every week, another report reveals a scandal of hundreds or thousands of children hurt at the hands of so-called servants of God. It's no wonder they try so hard to make us the scapegoat. I want to talk about the fact it is cis people abandoning their children, kicking them out of the house and onto the streets because those kids are queer or trans. I want to talk about the fact that 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been sexually assaulted, and 99.9999% of their attackers have been cisgender. I want to tell the Joanne Rowlings and Mike Johnsons who try to spread this myth we're a threat that they're lying, and the people who believe them that they're being manipulated. But today, I want to talk about the facts of cisgender violence and what the hell are any of you going to do about that? Clean up your own house before you start telling lies about us. Don't distort the Bible to hide your own sins. Don't change facts to lies. Don't look for cheap political advantage in playing upon people's fears. I'm tired of the myths. I'm tired of the distortions. I'm speaking up about it. Trans brothers and sisters, what are you going to do? You must come out. Come out to your parents. I know that it is hard and it may hurt them, but think of how they will hurt you in the voting booth. Come out to your relatives. I know that it is hard and may upset them, but think of how they will upset you in the voting booth. Come out to your friends, if indeed they are your friends. Come out to your neighbors, to your coworkers, to the people who work where you eat and shop. Come out to only the people you know and who know you, not to anyone else. But once and for all, break down the myths, destroy the lies and the distortions. For your sake. For their sake. For the sake of the youngsters who are being terrified by the votes coming from Tallahassee to Boise. If Mace wins, she will not stop. They never do. Like all mad people, they are forced to go on to prove they were right. There will be no safe closet for any trans person. So break out of yours today. Tear the damn thing down once and for all. History says that, like all groups seeking their rights, sooner or later, we will win. While Texas has tried to erase trans people with legal games and has a proposal on the table to make simply being a trans person a felony, the trans community gathered at the state capitol for Transgender Day of Visibility to show that we cannot be erased. The Austin American-Statesman's Jay Janner covered the event with the best medium for visibility a newspaper can offer, in pictures. Here are a few folks. Felix Nance. Aaron Schmidt and his step-parent. Jay. Elena Sanzala, Mel Arias, Lily Reynolds, and Veronica Sage. Aaron Pont. Marco Rose and Aaliyah Lockwood. Ari LeBlanc and Raylan Gosen. Nicole and Maritza. Maine Sturks. Jesus Barrera and Tim DeVick. Sydney Nance. Several of these people spoke about their experiences and struggles as trans Texans. Several others were parents, partners, siblings, or friends there to offer support or to stand up for trans people in their own lives. One of the great things about humanity is the biological drive towards compassion. Because no matter what you've been told by the fearmongers and politicians, once you know a trans person, once you see our humanity, you can no longer look at what these governments are trying to do to criminalize our existence as anything but the naked cruelty it really is. And nothing can stop that humanity from spreading. Trans Day of Visibility started in Michigan when Rachel Crandall Crocker gathered various community groups to establish a holiday to celebrate the accomplishments and joy of the trans and non-binary communities. So it only makes sense that this state would take a special pride in this particular event, one focused on our happiness rather than only our struggles. Trans Unity Coalition founder Bree Taylor said this day reminds us to, quote, find moments of celebration in the midst of adversity and to keep showing up with that joy. She went on to add, quote, when we decide to exist proudly in the public eye, we disrupt every storyline that says we can only be ashamed of ourselves or invisible. Roz Keith, founder of Stand With Trans, said she became involved because of her trans son. She said, quote, what I learned through his journey is that being transgender is not about changing who you are. It's about becoming who you have always been. Emmy Zanotti, a senior director at Equality Michigan, sees the road ahead further than most, saying, quote, "If these next generations are simply visible, it will not be enough. It will now be our mission and our responsibility to make sure that transgender people are not just seen, but to make sure we are heard and to make damn sure that we are understood." While Connecticut debates adding a constitutional amendment to protect gender identity, Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysowitz and other state lawmakers hosted and spoke at this year's Trans Day of Visibility. Brianna Scour, organizer of Middletown Pride, spoke a bit about how far our community has come. Quote, "In 2025, we have visible transgender individuals in local, state, and federal government. We argue cases before the Supreme Court. We're journalists, activists, artists, and public servants. Our existence is a birthright, one that includes joy, struggle, and the right to take up space. We work, we love, we sing, we dance, we struggle, we succeed, and we vote. We have always existed, but now we exist openly and honorably." Julie Walsh, a director at Triangle Community Care, spoke on the subject of intersectionality. Quote, "We can't talk about visibility without also talking about race, disability, immigration, and access. Trans immigrants and undocumented folks are enriching our culture and building futures despite enormous odds. Visibility alone is not a shield, but it doesn't erase the systemic barriers trans and non-binary people face every day." Meanwhile, in New York, while the state deals with ongoing outbreaks of anti-trans violence in connection with the inauguration of the current president, Governor Kathy Hochul signed an official proclamation celebrating Trans Day of Visibility, which declared several prominent landmarks from Niagara Falls to the state capitol will be lit with the colors of the trans flag. In a press release, she said, quote, "New York is proud to be the birthplace of the LGBTQ+ rights movement, with trailblazers like Marsha P. Johnson, whose courage and leadership sparked the fight for equality. While the Trump administration is attacking the existence of trans people through harmful policies and rhetoric, New York remains a beacon of hope and acceptance. On Transgender Day of Visibility, we honor the strength and resilience of the transgender community." The press release went on to repeat that New York was the first state to issue regulations prohibiting harassment and discrimination based on gender identity. With an ongoing rash of deaths and assaults targeted at trans people across the state, what actions the government plans to take to ensure the actual safety of trans residents remains to be seen. But the Empire State is taking a stand, on paper at least. Similar gatherings took place in Hawaii, the state with the highest percentage of trans residents, who just a few months ago elected a trans representative to what was, at the time, the highest office yet occupied by a transgender person. Delaware, home of the current highest-ranking trans elected representative, Philadelphia, Denver, and over 1,000 people in Spokane who turned up for the Gender Freedom March, a combined effort of the area trans advocacy groups and pride organizations to campaign for healthcare rights and civil rights equality for all citizens, regardless of sex or gender. We end where we begin, with a reminder that the watershed event in our movement was not a peaceful demonstration, but an uprising, And while the current administration has defaced the landmark commemorating that revolutionary moment, the locals are keeping the spirit of Stonewall alive as they have every year since. NYC Pride has announced the theme of the 2025 Pride March, to be held June 29th in Manhattan, as Pride in Protest. In a release, organizers said, as the GSM community faces increasing hostility and legislative attacks, this year's theme, quote, is a reflection of the Pride movement's origins in protest and is a powerful call to action for our communities and allies to rally and march in defiant celebration, advocacy, and solidarity. Co-chair Kaz Alexander said, quote, this year, more than ever, we acknowledge that Pride can be celebrated in many ways, but at the heart of our mission, we recognize that we must also remain steadfast in protest. The challenges we face today, particularly in this political climate, require us to stand together in solidarity. Pride is not merely a celebration of identity, it is a powerful statement of resistance. Co-chair Michelle Iramia added, quote, in the face of increasing discrimination, we must continue to push forward. As New Yorkers, we know pride is resistance. Pride is activism. And most importantly, pride is for everyone. The fight for equality is far from over. In addition to the Pride March, NYC Pride produces Pride Fest, one of the largest GSM street festivals in the world. Pride Gives Back, a grant program supporting local organizations that serve the GSM community, and other events across the year, all of which you can learn more about at their website, nycpride.org. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/TheTransPositions. Spread the word on social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by Bumblebee. And if you want to laugh at the people destroying their own lives out of spite for us, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
Just like Thursday, the boat in trouble. This time, Nomura was able to wriggle off the hook with a minute 30 to go, and now they hold a favored position. We're not going to have it. Stay close to each other. Game here is to get up to full speed. KR makes his move first, and he'll be going faster when the gun goes off. Go down below the line. 20. 17. 14. 13. 4, 3, 2, 1, shot! start, and another good job by Del and Bob.
I was going to do this whole thing about Martina Navratilova, but I thought in having watched Ember's segment, I needed to say a few things about visibility and how it is a bit of a double-edged sword. And I found myself thinking about an old song by Stephen Stills called Open Secret that I'd like to share with you, and you should maybe give it a listen. It's kind of a cool song, but goes. Does everyone have their dark side, like the backside of a lover's moon? Do we cry out for justice at sunrise, to be cleansed by confessions at noon? Have mercy. Still, my life is an open secret. Someone tell me, have I been gifted or robbed? Just as we seem to end the one-act play, we draw so much farther apart. Each new opening, a different time for closing. Will I sing my last symphony to an empty room? Still, my life is an open secret. Someone tell me, have I been gifted or robbed? Most of my life has gone up and down, and I don't see no reason for all this pain. Who was it said life is too short? All this hurting just makes it seem a shame. Still, my life is an open secret. Someone tell me, have I been gifted or robbed? It speaks to me because my life is an open secret. I am a trans woman. I am a visible trans woman. If anybody wants to know. However, I have no idea how many people at my current place of employment know that I'm trans at all. And I don't care whether they do or they don't. And one of the most important things to me is that is reaching that point of not caring. I don't know whether it's out of self-protection or whether it's out of just, I got a job to do. I want to do the job. I want to do the best job I can. And beyond that, if somebody knows, that's cool. If somebody doesn't, that's cool. If somebody is curious about me as a person, that's cool too. That's actually really cool because I want to tell my story. I'm not shy of doing that, about doing that. But it's that not having to hide and being proud, but living through it. Well, that's what's allowed me to live through these 27 years of transition and living and change and everything that I've seen. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot change. I've seen Martina Navratilova say, "Well, I wouldn't have cared. I didn't care about Renee Richards as a tennis pro, as long as she wasn't beating me." And as a matter of fact, they did meet in a doubles match, I believe in Australia in 1976, 7, something like that. And Martina beat her, but she didn't have a big problem playing that match. But yet, just a few days ago, she got all incensed at uh, 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 at a fencer uh, taking a knee and getting disqualified from the event, got a black card, because the rules of the game for US fencing say if you take a knee and refuse to compete in a match you're scheduled for, you get disqualified. That's the rule. That's what she got disqualified for. And the rules of USA fencing allow trans women to compete. You know, when you talk about sport, rules is rules. You play the game. It's a game. There is no game without rules, right? There's no game. You don't play. Your rook does not get to play like a bishop. That's not the way it works. Rules is rules. And in the rules of USA fencing, if you refuse to compete, you not only lose the match, but you're disqualified. You don't get to do another one. And this one fencer decided that she was gonna make a stand against having to fence against a trans woman, and Martina got all pissed off that she's like, well, she's being disqualified for making a stand for women's sport. No, she's getting disqualified for refusing to play by the rules of her sport. I mean, you can't have it every which way. But Martina wants to, and I feel like I'm kind of somewhat entitled to rail against Martina the hose beast, because at one point in time she was willing to play by the rules, and now she's not. Anyway, that's my little thing. I encourage you to go listen to Stephen's yet another. Yeah, go ahead, all y'all in the chat. Just go ahead. Okay, boomer, but go listen to that. It's a good piece, and it's good. It's good reflection about how willing are you to have your life be an open secret. How willing are you to be visible and stand for what you believe and stand for who you are and fight for who you are. For the Transpositions, I'm Stephanie. Good night, y'all. I love you.
California says no to anti-trans bills. 2 bills rejected in a contentious committee meeting Tuesday. And a Transposition Sports special tonight. 3 trans athletes, 3 interviews, talking about their hopes, their dreams, and how they're working through the reality of being trans in America right now. Hello again, everybody. This is Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. At the top of tonight, California State Assembly rejected 2 proposals by Republican lawmakers after hours of impassioned debate and commentary on Tuesday. One bill would have required the California Interscholastic Federation, the governing body for high school sports in the nation's largest state, to adopt rules that would ban transgender girls from participating on a girls' high school sports team. The other would have reversed the 2013 law that would have allowed students to participate in sex-segregated school programs, including sports teams, and use bathrooms and other facilities that align with their gender identity. It would have applied to all students K through 12 and college and university students. The impetus for these laws, Republican legislators now emboldened by the stance of California's Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom, who, on the debut of his podcast 3 weeks ago, spoke out against trans women in women's sports during his interview with professional transphobe Charlie Kirk.
Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that. It is an issue of fairness.
So
it's deeply unfair.
Would you speak out against this young man, A.B. Hernandez, who right now is going to win the state championship in the long jump? I can see you wrestling with it.
No, I'm not wrestling. I'm not wrestling with the fairness issue. I totally agree with you.
The trans athlete ban in California is the latest beachhead and an issue that's set to come to reckoning in 2 other states on the Pacific coast. Oregon legislators and its state high school governing body are considering regulatory proposals designed to limit trans participation later this month, as will the state of Washington. Their state's Interscholastic Athletic Association has 2 proposals up for a vote that call for either a blanket ban or the creation of an open category. The levels above high school have largely gone all in on blanket bans. The NAIA put up one last spring. The NCAA put theirs up last month, one day after President Trump's executive order. Tonight, we talked to 2 transgender athletes who are in the middle of it. The first is Cody Smith, a senior year sprint specialist at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in New York. Now, he's a member of the men's track team at Rensselaer. After spending 2 years on the women's team prior to transition, he has a lofty goal for his senior year, competing authentically. Robotics and running. How do those 2 worlds come together?
So actually, I would say the first time that I really noticed the similarities was in high school. My coach, David Holmes of Tamaqua High School, we used to really break it down to the basics of how sprinting worked, especially with short sprinting, because it's all about the form and how the air hits your body and making sure that you are as sleek and aerodynamic as possible.
You had mentioned earlier, started HRT last season. What led you to make that decision? In short, how did you get from A to B to T?
Of course. So I had a few health issues the summer before my junior year. And I was actually at RPI at the time for the Arch semester, which is the summer semester that typically athletes are given the option to exempt just so that we can focus on our competitions and be there for practices during the fall. But I was really seeking some opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise had if I would have exempted the Arch. And so instead, I was there in Troy and ended up facing some health issues. And ultimately, I went to the RPI Student Health Center and saw Dr. Ariella Zamchek, who actually just left this past week. She was amazing, really prioritized trans patients on campus. And I basically said to her that along with these other issues that I was facing, I wanted to be honest and say that I was really starting to feel like I would be more comfortable if I was presenting as a male and was perceived as a male and addressed as a male. And she was completely accepting and hearing that and basically said, let's see what we can do for you that is the best ultimate option that considers both your health issues and who you identify as. And so I ended up at that point making the decision and signing the informed consent to start HRT. And with that, unfortunately, that was July 2023. My parents did not take it so well. I definitely tried to give them at least the little bit of time that I had, because it was very abrupt in terms of when I did start it compared to when we got to have that conversation, just because of the dire need medically for me to start taking some form of hormone. But they did ultimately say that if I chose to not proceed with HRT treatment, they would continue financial and emotional support, but otherwise they were letting me know that they were cutting me off from that at that point. And so that was definitely something very challenging to work through as a student athlete and really just as a human being at that time.
First, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah.
Secondly, from a sporting standpoint, because you were a solid high school athlete, and then you went to RPI, kept the beat going, competing at the college level, which is not easy. How much did sport weigh into your decision to move forward? How did sport affect that decision?
I would definitely say that was one of the bigger outliers that almost made me consider different forms of hormone treatment, was just the fact that I was not certain how it was going to affect my performance. And I've always been the most competitive type of person and really trying to push myself, always do my absolute best. And so I did have a few moments in deciding whether to start HRT where I thought to myself, is this ultimately going to impact me being able to do my best? And for a little bit, that answer was yes. But I definitely think that the benefits that I've gotten just in terms of mental health and my own well-being have pushed me way farther than I could have had I continued to struggle with those thoughts and continue to try to compete and do school at the same time.
What was it like coming onto the team and coming onto the men's track team at RPI and say, "Hi, I'm your new teammate. I was over there last year"?
So it was a little bit weird at first. The first time I formally addressed it, it was to my closer friends on the women's team. And I was really nervous for that, just because you never know how people in your life are going to take something like that until it actually happens. And of course, in the case of my parents, I really was expecting them to come through with support. And so for some of the athletes who I obviously have not known as long as I have known my parents, you really just never know. And so I came out to them via text, and the support that I got was immediate. I remember one of my friends mentioning that she had talked to some other teammates about it, because I just tried to put feelers out to see who would be receptive to still being around me at that point. And she basically let them know that our teammate is deciding to transition. His name is Cody now. That is what he'd like to be referred as. And I would like you to at least make the conscious effort to respect his pronouns and respect that name. And I understand that you're going to make some mistakes sometimes, but overall, he's definitely going to feel the love and support if you try to put it out as much as possible. My coach, Colin Torrey, has definitely been instrumental in that. From the time that I came out as trans to him, he set up a meeting with me right away up at our athletic campus, and he let me know that he would do anything possible to support me in my transition and continuing to be an athlete. I remember even kind of thinking to myself that I wasn't certain with the way that NCAA guidelines work if I was going to be able to be on that team still, just in terms of my marks. Obviously, my PRs weren't going to be up to the men's standard, and he reassured me on that, was like, don't worry about it, we just want you to be here and be a part of this team. And so he's definitely delivered on every single promise that he's made in terms of making it a welcoming place for me.
Gut reaction to the NCAA's policy changes back on February 6th.
it was a really difficult time for me mentally, emotionally, just seeing a few of the trans women that I know, and even of course, the trans women that I don't know being impacted by this policy. And fortunately, at around that time, I got to know Sadie Schreiner of RIT, and just experiencing her story and seeing the dedication that she has to continuing to just even show her face in sports and keep setting those standards. It's been so nice to see that she's been able to push herself in that way. And I'm just so sorry to see that the media has slandered her and other trans women that I am so proud to have competed alongside.
Now, one thing, among other trans student athletes, have you heard from some others? Kind of, if you have, how do you help each other kind of pick each other up, especially right now with all the nastiness you've seen the last couple of years?
Oh, definitely. I would say right now I do have a text group chat with a few of the other trans athletes just in this relative area, upstate New York and Massachusetts, kind of that area. And we really do try to check in on each other. We're always asking different competitions that are happening and seeing, in terms of at this point with the sports ban in place, which of my friends are trying to compete and where, and keeping tabs on different universities and what their response to trans athletes in sport has been. And really just checking in on each other in terms of, one of my friends just got to compete for the first time in, I believe, almost a year, since she was with on and off injuries. And so just hearing good news like that and sharing PRs and personal achievements, we really try to create a space where we can debrief and basically say, hey, here's what's going on right now with our experience. How are you all feeling about this? And encouraging each other to keep pushing as hard as we can in the sport.
How are opponents across the Liberty League, for example, how are they taking your presence being there? How did they take Sadie's presence being there? What has the temperature been like around the league?
I will definitely say that Sadie has gotten a lot more national attention than I have, and it's terrible the amount that her name has been dragged through the mud. And up until now, I've taken more of a fly on the wall sort of standpoint and really just tried to listen and scope out the situation and see how people feel. But I will say that just based on my increasing online presence and the way that I've been more outspoken recently about being RPI's first trans athlete, I have noticed that there are certain people that, in a good way, I think have recognized me from some of my posts online and have sort of taken small steps just to let me know that they see me and support me being in sport, which is honestly really nice and better than I expected and better than what the administration would want you to think is happening. But definitely in Sadie's case, I think that it's been a lot more difficult, and just because people don't understand the full scientific and medical history behind HRT, particularly where trans women are affected, and want to make certain comparisons about competition being unfair when really it is perfectly fair.
Now, what do you think people get wrong about trans men playing sport? What's the biggest myths and misconceptions you're seeing about you getting out there?
I would definitely say one of the things that I had stick with me the most is a comment that I saw a few weeks ago on a comment that I made on one of Sadie's posts, responding to me, and it was a cis man saying that he doesn't work out at all and he is still in better athletic shape than I am. And I definitely think that that's a very strong misconception. Like I said before, that trans men are just ultimately confused women who aren't a threat in sport. And I would definitely say that that is the root cause of the negative rhetoric that does surround trans men, just because it definitely, there are certain changes that take root almost as soon as you start HRT and you start perceiving yourself differently. And I even learned to perceive competition differently, and just really becoming in touch with my own body and what I need and how far I can push myself. And I would definitely say that I am happy with the athletic progress that I am making, even if it does not seem like much to that particular cis man. And I don't need people to tell me what I should look like or what my times should be like at this point. I am proud of what I am doing and the fact that I am representing RPI as a trans male athlete. And basically that is something that I feel cannot be taken away from me at this point. My experiences have shaped me into the student athlete that I am.
In Massachusetts at Brandeis University, freshman track athlete Elle Young is competing as well. As a high schooler in New York City, she was a top prep school contender, prep league and independent school champion sprinter in boys track. She started her transition during her senior year and was planning to compete on the men's team at Brandeis this year, then switched to the women's team next year after she reached the NCAA's mandated 1-year threshold on feminizing HRT. That was supposed to be the plan for 2026, but the NCAA's ban on February 6th changed the plans entirely. And she talks about what the ban has meant for her and what comes next. School record holder, champ, prep league champ, all sorts of accolades. I mean, you just weren't some geek off the street, that is for certain. But the idea was you went ahead, you moved forward. The plan originally was, hey, you were going to get yourself, you were going to compete, get your feet wet, be on the men's team, meet the NCAA requirement, and then next year you get to compete authentically.
Yeah, that was the plan.
February 6th screwed that up. Gut reaction to the ban.
Oh, my gut reaction, despair, hopelessness. You can talk to any of my friends that day, and they'll probably say that was the most hopeless I've ever been. Just period. And then after about taking that day of just like trying to grapple with it, I felt actually a newfound sense of urgency and like fire. It actually ignited such a fire of fight for me. And probably in the first time ever, I felt like I needed to use my voice in public. And I felt like my voice had such a power because, as President Charles Baker has said, there are less than 10 trans athletes in the NCAA, and I'm pretty sure I'm a part of that. And yeah, I just felt such a need to use my voice in order to fight for my rights and fight for my brothers and sisters who are being denied their right to compete authentically.
Why is that important to you?
Sports have been such a important part of my life. I've been running for as long as I can remember. My dad, when I was probably around 5, would enter me into these little youth races from NYR, New York Roadrunners. And then I went from that to Little League Baseball, from that to running track in high school. And so not only the physical effects, the physical well-being you get from sports, but the mental well-being of being able to just be yourself. Sports and athletics is such a healthy way to appreciate your body, and it's a way to just love yourself. And if trans people are being discriminated against just blatantly for something they can't control, their gender identity and how they present themselves, then you remove them from being able to have that positive connection with their body. And they just have to, and you force them into such a terrible box of what leads to depression for a lot of people, and unfortunately for some, getting to suicide. That's what we see with a lot of studies, and we have seen with a lot of these anti-trans bills and executive orders.
Team at Brandeis right now.
Mm-hmm.
What led you to make that decision that, you know what, I'm going to still ride this out? And how do you answer to those who say, you know, you can compete with the dudes. No big deal. You're doing it now. What's the difference?
Yeah. Like, as I said before, track and just athletics is just a huge part of me as a person, and it maintains my mental health so much. And so sidelining myself for a year, in my head wasn't an option. And to the people who are like, yeah, you're actually not banned, you can still compete with the men, I say, but I'm not a man, and my body is becoming very quickly not similar to other cis men and people who compete in the men's category. And I'm just very confused about that point, because I feel like a lot of people are either seeing trans women as men, which is, and then becoming afraid of that, which is honestly, in my head, a little bit of a projection of how cis men treat women in the society. It's just blatantly misogynist. And then two, it just undercuts all the guidelines that trans athletes have to go through in order to compete on the other side. And so what I'm doing now is for my own mental health and for to follow the guidelines so that I will be able to compete authentically in the future.
Do you believe there will be a future for you to compete in?
There will always. I believe that maybe at this point we don't really know. Right now, it feels to me that it's just a slippery slope of things, guidelines changing for the worse and new rules being implemented for the worse, and nothing's catching. We have seen very little legal challenges to this in terms of the NCAA. I'm pretty sure there's 2 high schoolers suing the Trump administration as a part of an already ongoing lawsuit, and all the power to them.
You're talking about the ones in New Hampshire.
I think that's where it is. Yes. All the power to them. I wish them the best of luck with that lawsuit, and I think that is an amazing first step. However, right now, I feel like there is very little hope. Within the next 10 years, maybe, I think that there will be avenues for us to compete. And hopefully with the midterm elections, something can finally catch and we can have a solid foundation to fight back on. But right now, it's so shaky. We see UPenn having their funding threatened, the Trump administration threatening to pull UPenn's funding because of Leah Thomas, athlete who followed the guidelines, and hasn't. I graduated UPenn, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 years ago, and the Trump administration is threatening them for what? Following the rules? For Leah Thomas being an amazing athlete in her own right?
Away from the track, what's the tenor been like on campus? What is it like being a college student
who is a trans woman in the age of Trump right now?
I'm gonna be honest. Even at Brandeis, it sucks a little bit right now. Brandeis is probably one of the best places I could be. Massachusetts, sanctuary state. And I have so many queer friends around here who support me. And touching off track a little bit, my team completely supported, my coach completely supported, my athletics department completely supported. They will fight behind me. The university refuses to make a public comment on anything. And I have gone to administrators and asked them, what is your stance on this? Like, what are you going to do about this? And the response I got was, look at what we do, not what we say. And even that has been felt very lackluster across all, not just Brandeis, across all universities. And I kind of understand, because we see schools having the threats of their funding pulled, and ICE raids with Tufts. Even Tufts is 10 miles away from us, and they're getting targeted. So schools are being just scared right now, and it's terrifying, because while they might be being brave with like maintaining their support networks for queer students, not speaking out is just, it's not being brave enough for what we need right now. We need people to speak up. We need institutions that have power and who are educating our young people to speak out. And even more than that, just broadly, people who have the privilege, who aren't affected by these issues, they need to speak out.
It's time for your dose of Kirby cuteness. I'm Kirby the Cat. And coming up on Transposition Sports, anti-trans hysteria in a rec league. Really? Really, Carly? It's clumps in the litter box, I'm telling you. Yeah, anyway, Carly sits down with a tennis player who's as fashionable as she is fierce on the court to talk about this nonsense that happened to her because she got kicked out of a tennis league for winning. That and more to come on Transposition Sports after these messages from the angry gay grandpa. You know what's coming. Get the Kleenex out.
This little light of mine.
Dad?
Before you say anything, I just want to apologize for what I said this morning. I've been doing a lot of thinking. If you want to change your name, if you want to wear a dress.
It's a skirt, Dad.
Skirt? I don't know the kind of support you need, but let's get you some for all this transgender stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? Dad, what is this?
Oh, this is me supporting you. This is me saying I love you. This is me not losing you.
Love you, Dad.
Love you. Holly.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.
I wanted to make a video for myself. I know 90% of the people who come to my content just come to trash my existence in the comments.
He's a man! Shut
Another guy in women's sports broke the 200-meter record.
I want to take proper time to summarize my life as an athlete. The reason I am making this video is because for the past 2 years I've tried to educate. I've desperately tried to speak with leaders, with organizations, with politicians, with the NCAA, but my voice has never reached them. People that constantly spread hate about me, they don't want to hear what I have to say because their opinions were made before they heard my voice.
I first picked up a racket US Open 2022, all the hype around Serena retiring. One of my best friends, Lauren, played in high school and was like, let's just try it. I decided, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna go out today and buy a racket. Outside my door, there was a racket that someone had put out on the street for free. And I was like, this is a sign. I need to go. And that night in September, I went and played and just like have not stopped since. Tennis gives me something where I can prove to myself my limits, and I always surprise myself with what I'm capable of doing, and so that excitement and that drive and connecting with people when I play really brings me to show up every day. I'm very aggressive when I play, and so I try to reel it in a bit, but I naturally lean towards being just super aggressive, but I also feel beautiful and graceful, and it's just like such a good combination. And since I've started my transition, I had that gap in my life where I really needed something that made me feel that way. You know, when I grew up, it was, you know, I was queer and just very non-athletic really, and I felt so uncomfortable playing sports, and the culture was so difficult to integrate myself with. You know, trans people are not generally welcome in sports, and queer people in general aren't welcome in sports all the time, and so it was just such a pleasant surprise to start working myself into the community and going from being so nervous about how people would receive me to being, you know, just like part of the family in the cities. So there's lots of great moments where I get to meet other queer players, and we get that moment of like getting to like see each other and respect each other, and so I think that's really beautiful. I think we're entering these spaces a lot more, and I think it's really important for other queer people to see queer people in these like athletic spaces. So I just hope it becomes a, you know, continues to become a more open and welcoming place. You know, what I'm doing now, I never thought I could do a year ago, and so I just want to keep smashing those goals, and if I can't go pro, what's the next what's the next best thing, and if I can't do that, what's the next best thing? So just pushing. Yeah.
Welcome back to Transposition Sports. I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb. And in a special spotlight interview tonight, a story out of New York City. Cammie Woodman, 25 years old, self-described as, quote, a queer kid who never played sports, took up tennis 3 years ago. She's been playing ever since. Leagues, tournaments, it doesn't matter. Have a court, have a can of balls and a racket, she'll take you on. And she signed up for a league a few weeks ago where she lives in Brooklyn, a league sponsored by the Tennis League Network, a national consortium designed to build fun times and healthy competition. Yet, she was told, here's your money back, get out of our league, after her first match that she won, because she's a transgender woman. We sat down with her and got the full story. Now, first, before we even get into the controversy and all the nonsense, you said 2 years, if I understood it right, 2 years ago, you were literally on the couch. And then I look at you on Instagram and you look like the terror of the local tennis league. How did you get from there to here?
I began playing it was September 2022, and I specifically remember that because it was I was so inspired by Serena's final matches at the US Open, just her beauty and how powerful and strong she was. And I had already begun my transition at that point, and I had never played a sport before, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I need that. And magically found a racket on the side of my apartment here in Brooklyn that someone had just left out, and I thought it was just a sign from the universe, and I just started playing, and I've been obsessed ever since. Started lessons really soon after beginning to play, and just completely immersing myself with the community and starting to train in other ways by boxing and taking spin classes and Pilates. So it's really diversified my training. And now I'm at a point where I'm playing 4 times a week, obviously trying to compete as much as I can, and just always seeking to improve my game.
What went down recently between yourself and this tennis league you were a part of? What happened?
Yeah, so it's an unfortunate situation. So I had joined this league on the recommendation of some of my friends here in Brooklyn. And so I had joined it. I got connected with a great group of girls that we had a group chat, and we were able to schedule our own matches in. I had coordinated a match with someone in the group chat I hadn't met before. We met and played at my home court, Lincoln Terrace here in Crown Heights, and we had our match. The truth of the matter is, the league was at a certain level, and I just felt like my opponent maybe just like wasn't there yet, just with her experience. There's clearly a level difference between us just based on what we were able to do on our side of the court. And I just said to myself, I have this huge mental block with matches, and I just said, stay in it, stick to your game and what you can control. Try to move her around since the footwork wasn't really there. And ultimately I beat her 6-2, 6-love. And I was super excited and felt super accomplished about that because in previous tournaments that I've played, I've had some pretty tough losses where I've been on the receiving end of that kind of loss where I've lost, winning only a couple of games maybe. And, so it was this huge moment for me. I was really excited, super cordial with my opponent. We shook hands at the net. I had offered to be there for her as a hitting partner, match practice, whatever she had wanted, since I knew she was new to the city and new to the community.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately I woke up the next day to find that she had emailed the CEO of the league network, and the CEO of the league network had forwarded me her email that was targeting my identity, with the message just saying, can we move you to an appropriate men's division?
Wait a minute. Now, was that what the league said or what this opponent said?
The league said. My opponent had said, it's not fair that this is a man playing with women. I'm not going to play under the pretense that he's a woman. So clearly my opponent felt some type of way and, really had no consideration for me or my identity. And I just left a really distasteful email. And then the league took it upon themselves to share that email with me with that message asking me to put me in a men's division.
And your response to the league was?
No. I said no because I thought it was ridiculous. I had heard that across the country other trans people had played in this league before. So going into it, I didn't even think it would ever really come up as a big issue. And my response was that I've been medically transitioning for 4 years. A lot of competitive sports ask that people are transitioning for 3 years medically before they're allowed to participate, just depending on the sport. But I just, in my mind, I felt that I was justified to play. I offered to provide like proof of my medical transition if that was necessary. I also offered the fact that I just like felt like my opponent's level like maybe was in the wrong division, since I just didn't feel like her skill set matched the division's level. Because I truly feel that if she, were to play some of the other girls in this league, she might have similar results. And I just, I felt really offended that my opponent said that. So I stood up for myself and defended everything that I felt like I was doing. And the response to it was really poor. The man had said, like, whatever this is, we want nothing we want nothing a part of this, and we'll issue you a refund.
Yeah, I'm looking at the exact email right here. Whatever this is, we have zero interest in being involved. Everyone who is connected is getting refunded and immediately removed from the program. Would you say this was a skill issue?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I felt that my opponent, like, it's just like one of those things where, I don't know her personally very well at all. She had mentioned that she played in high school and was new to the city. To me, even if I were a cis woman, in no world does that level of experience equate to training 6 days a week and being on court 4 times a week and taking boxing and taking all these other types of fitness classes that I'm doing, watching pro tennis every day, learning from really great players. It was lopsided, but I really don't find that has anything to do with my gender identity. It's court time and the hours that I've put in that I believe made the difference in level.
Now, gut reaction when you got that email from the Tennis League Network.
It was
like the email that said, whatever this is, we don't want to be a part of it. We're giving you money back. Get out of our league. What was your gut reaction when you got that?
I was just like, this feels like we're in the 70s right now. Like I like couldn't believe it. It was just kind of like my worst nightmare, and I was so offended, and yeah, it just like I couldn't believe it, because at that point in the email thread, I had already known that it would have been illegal to kick me out. And I was just shocked that the owner wasn't willing to listen to any of that. And it's just textbook discrimination, So it's like you hear these stories all the time. And of course they happen today, but you hear of these stories happening in the past as well. And you just think like, oh my goodness, like what a terrible situation. And then it happens to you, like, and it's just unbelievable. I was really in shock.
A lot of people spoke out. What was it like to have the support that you got from friends, fellow competitors? What was that like for you to see that, no, a lot of people were like, no, Cammie should play?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I mean, I never expected the attention that it got. I thought, like some of my closest friends would stand up for me and say something, but I had people all over the world, standing, like speaking out in support of me. There was, of course, several members of the league that stood up for me and spoke up against the owner of the league, who also got kicked out for standing up for me. And I thought, as cisgendered women, for them to stand up and say, like, we don't want to be a part of this if Cammie's not allowed to play too, I thought that was really unbelievable. And I thought, like, what a great show of sportsmanship on their part to stand up for me. And of course, with this whole attention, a lot of hate's come through, but it's almost nothing compared to all the love that I've received. It's just, I mean, the response has been incredible.
I'm reading over some of these emails. I'm getting a John McEnroe attack here.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious.
You can't be serious.
You can't be serious. You cannot be serious.
I'm looking at all this. The big
Yeah.
difference is that they didn't intend to have an agenda to cause problems. Now, I want your take on this. As someone who's relatively new to sports, even, but has probably seen the ugliness that you've seen the last few years. How does that land with you to hear that, to read that that you're being accused of having an agenda and causing problems?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably the craziest part of the whole situation, because it's almost like it's, and this happens all the time when oppressed people speak up for themselves. It's like, we're the ones that have the problem. We're the ones with the agenda to disrupt and make problems. And I thought it was so hypocritical because, and if this man was actually okay with trans participants, what he could have said to my opponent was, hi, unfortunately, I'm sorry for how you feel, but we do allow trans participants. If you'd like to, you don't need to consent to having a match with Cami again, and you don't need to play against each other. Instead, I got involved in the whole situation by him forwarding me her transphobic email and him asking me something that was outright disrespectful to my identity. And I don't know, like, that to me, if anything, is a transphobic agenda and an exclusionary agenda, because I never had to even know about this interaction at all. It could have been handled by him as the CEO of the league.
This other person is still in the league who had the complaint.
Yes.
But they just said, here's your money back, get out.
Yeah, it was me and other folks in the league that had stood up for me that were issued refunds and kicked out.
As far as this goes, what's the next step for you? Is this something you're going to pursue? And if so, how are you going to do it?
Yeah, we're still deciding the best action to take. I mean, the ultimate goal would be for him to not be allowed to operate out of Brooklyn anymore, or the city, I guess, in general, because his business practice is illegal, just like plain and simple. What he did was illegal, and he shouldn't be allowed to make money and profit off of people in the city if he's not going to follow the law, just plain and simple.
More about you, because there's something we got to get at, because one thing I noticed about you is that you bring the fits. You bring the fits.
Yeah.
You bring the no. Let's talk. No, we need to talk about this because this is important. You just bring the fits. Can we talk about this for a second? Can we
Carly,
talk about
the best part? It's the best part.
It's the best part, isn't it?
I've always
bring
said,
the fits.
you know what? I've lost so bad at some tournaments before, and I've said to the girls, obviously the girls that I know and I'm friends with, I'm like, you know what? But at least I won best dressed, and no one can take that away from me. Like, no matter how bad I lose, I'll never lose best dressed, and that's sometimes okay with me.
Hey, when you first hit me up on Instagram, the first thing I noticed was like, okay, because I'm looking to improve my tennis dress game this spring.
Yeah,
and actually play this spring. So the first thing I noticed is like, come on, can we talk? Cammy's bringing the goods right here.
Yeah. It's my favorite. It's the best part of the whole thing, and it's like when I feel my best, when I feel like I look my best. So it changes everything. It feels like it's my my super suit, you know.
You know what? X a question. It's September, and you get an opportunity to play at Flushing Meadows Center court, arena court,
Yeah.
arena court, the big stage. And you get an opportunity to hit with Serena Williams.
Yeah.
What's the outfit?
Oh my God, what would I even do?
What's the outfit?
Oh my goodness. I mean, next to her, I would look like nothing. I can't even imagine what I'd wear. I think we'd have to like custom make something to even like try
No,
to
you get something
to
custom
stand next
made.
to her.
You get something custom made to your to your exact specifications. You get a dream outfit. What would it be? What would it be?
Okay, this is so specific, but if you look up, Serena collaborated with the brand Off-White and Nike in 2018, and she wore a tutu in her dress.
I remember that.
And you know what I'm talking about. I want that, and
yes.
I want it in all white. I want it in classic all white.
Oh.
I want to be full ballerina on the court with her.
In fact, I'm looking at that right now.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing?
It is.
I want to just give full ballerina. And yeah, just that'd be such a dream.
Is it also kind of like that very performance aspect, but also that artistic aspect that kind of draws you to it?
Absolutely. I mean, I love like how with your idols like Serena and Venus, it's not like, oh, she was the best part of this team. It was like, no, she was Serena, period. It was just Serena. And I think like having that individuality and that, you know, that platform to be expressing myself and just, I'm the one in control of this situation and of this win and my power. Yeah, that's it. Like I feel just like a superstar when I'm out on court.
When you consider stories like a Cody Smith, an Elle Young, a Cammie Woodman, the common denominator is not being trans. The common denominator is they just want to participate. They just want to compete. They just want to test themselves against others like themselves. They're competitors. They're athletes. No more, no less. Yet, some will still look at them and look down at them falsely. And that is the crux of the problem. Because people don't see them first and foremost as just people. People with a dream and people with a goal. And that is the toughest part of what we're seeing in sports right now. The idea that these three should be penalized for being who they are or demonized for being who they are. When that attitude changes, we can talk about so many other issues. Let's make sure that change comes quickly, shall we? For Transposition Sports, I'm Carly Chardonnay Webb.
All right, let's bring the friends up. Great oh, not that one. Great segment, Carly. I think everybody's off screen except for me. Where you at, staff? There you are. Ladies, are you with me? Let's wrap this show up so I can eat some dinner. They're both muted and away. So I guess it's just me solo until they come back. You know what? That's cool with me. I actually have something I wanted to talk about. It's something kind of local to where I come from. I'm like from the St. Louis area of Illinois and Missouri, kind of north of there, but like it's the city that we went to, right? It's where we went. Anyway, so it's kind of well known for its drag. They have a strong LGBTQ support community in St. Louis and a very healthy drag presence. So when one of the local queens decided to come out as a trans medicalist. They have cut her loose and replaced her with somebody pretty awesome. All right, so the Gray Fox is getting hot. Reigning Miss Trans USA, Beyonce St. James, was added to their lineup. And Eve Versace out amid controversy. So Eve Versace is this, it's right here. Here's what she said. I'm probably the only person in the city who can headline a show on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night and still find a way to be too controversial for a roast, Versace laughed. What I'll say is, as a drag performer of 7 years and a post-op transsexual, if anyone wants to challenge my opinion or my stance on trans issues, I'm there, baby. I'll meet you halfway. Game on. Nobody's going to call me transphobic or misogynistic. I think you're transphobic and misogynistic for saying that non-binary people are not transgender. You're done. You're done, babe. You're out. This is, yeah. Transmedicalism at its finest. This is trans exclusionary, trans exclusivity. It's just cringe all the way through from start to finish. Is that not a fact? We are just letting everybody do whatever they want now. Gold star and a cookie for everyone. I'm so sorry, but it's not the same, especially when it comes to politics. I'm trying to pass, live quietly and comfortably, and not draw attention to myself, and I am being burnt at the stake for it. Doll, you are saying you built your whole persona on the back of the LGBTQ community, right? You built your persona on the fact that you are a trans person performing in a big city, and now you're going to say, again, this is pulling the ladder up behind you. Steph, if you're talking, I can't hear you.
Come on, muted. Oh yeah, I guess I am muted. Well,
yeah, because we were back. We were in the locker. Yeah, in the anchor locker.
Yeah. What does that even mean? What does "I'm just trying to pass" even mean? What is this? Is a problem, I think.
Yeah. She wants people to think that she's cis, but
yeah, which is it's an irrational goal. I think you are you, right?
Especially if you build your persona on being trans, your public image on being a trans person.
Well, yes, but you're not transgender. You're a transsexual, a proud transsexual, and post-op even. It's like, what do you do? Good for you.
I'm a transsexual too, but I was a transgender person first. That's why I became a transsexual and modified myself to be more aligned with my gender.
Yeah, but are you a real transsexual? You're not a real transsexual unless you go all the way.
You have to get the bottom surgery and
you got to get everything, all the stuff. Yeah, as Titan just pointed out in the chat, Brianna Wu levels of delusion. Yeah, it's just
but that's where you have to understand. This is actually becoming a thing in the discourse among trans people. This discourse is a thing. No, this is truly becoming frontline discourse to where there are people going on CNN talking about this stuff. I mean,
yeah, but people have been talking about this stuff since the Usenet news groups. Like,
yeah, but
no, this is not new.
But now it's at the front to where the cis people, the mundanes, and the straights are picking up on this. And
yes, because it suits their narrative. I agree.
Right.
But it suits the whole essence of transmedicalist rhetoric is the old thing
Yes.
Can
Definitely.
you perform in the gender that your desired gender? That used to be part of the Harry S. Benjamin standards of care.
Yeah,
You need
the
to
real life
demonstrate
test.
that the real life test. You need to demonstrate that you can perform this gender adequately,
And I'm dead set
according
against it because
to the gatekeepers, and the gatekeepers are all cis men. And it's, oh honey, you're just not there.
Can we
they're
punctuate
all
just how
white cis men.
racist
Let's
that
just get
is
real.
too?
Let's
To
just
say
get
that,
totally real. Absolutely.
or to say that
I'll just tell you, if I had to undergo,
That was my day. That was
yeah,
my transition
oh yeah,
experience.
if I had to go through that, they wouldn't let me transition.
Yeah,
because of the way I live my life.
Well, I fucked them over. I just grabbed a hold of the hormones and started taking them and said, "Hey, look it, you do you, but I'm doing me." And
that any one culture's presentation of femininity and womanhood should be considered the end-all be-all of womanhood is just incredibly racist and xenophobic and should not be part of any kind of medical or clinical standards.
But unfortunately it is, and you don't have to be trans to understand that. Come on, let's just
it's garbage. It's garbage.
As the only person who's not white in this grouping, and don't get me wrong, I love you all. Let's face it. If I was born as a cisgender woman, people would still look at me and say, "You're not a woman."
I'm very white. I'll agree with that. Not only am I very white, I'm also very white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. I'm so
well, yeah.
washed.
You think
fucking
you
believe
think
it.
Massachusetts is the center of the universe, so that right there ought to tell you
I
something.
do, and I appreciate the distinction between the Massachusetts Bay Colony and the Plymouth Colony. It's like that's
so just to
I
wrap
got a
up
foot
my
in
story
both. I got a foot in both realms.
To wrap up my story here, yeah, St. Louis isn't having it. St. Louis has a very vocal and strong voice to their LGBTQ community, and they're inclusive. So they're not gatekeeping who's trans there. They're not gatekeeping that. They're saying, hey, it's your identity. You express it how you want. And yeah, and to the naysayers like Versace here, you're out. You're out. You're not welcome in our spaces anymore. Okay? We don't need you to drag other people down to make yourself feel better about your own transition and where you are. Not everybody needs to go all the way to feel comfortable in their skin. Sometimes it's just something, just a little thing about the way they present that changes, and
I just think
better.
it's silly.
I
just think it's silly, and on their part, it's like, what? How do you gain by putting other people down? I don't get it. I just don't. But hey, and I'll admit, as a very binary trans woman, I had a hard time wrapping my head around. I was just like, it's okay, boomer. Yeah, everybody go, okay, boomer. I had a hard time wrapping my head around the whole notion of a binary, of a non-binary identity. But if you think about it, when it comes to gender, it's all about you don't have to land in this basket or that basket. You can be that there aren't baskets. There aren't, it's like, yeah, well, am I a wave or a particle, right? Is my position here or there? Or it's like, that's silly. And people get to be who they are. I don't know why that's so hard for people to wrap their minds around. I really don't. I don't know why that's such a difficult thing for people to grasp.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap us up for the night. We've been going almost 3 hours now.
I know.
I am.
Holy shit!
I'm ready for.
But
I
Carly's
take the blame
segment
for a lot of that.
at that hour was golden. It was
Great interviews,
wonderful.
yes.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Well, I really enjoyed the three.
I tried to keep my little bit as short as possible because I realized that we got an hour and a half of Carly and Ember. So
yeah, we usually
it was
keep the
enjoyable.
show right around 2 hours, but when one of my team has something long format to go, I'm all for it. Usually I'll cut my own segment out, but actually I didn't intend to bring my segment up tonight, but everybody has stepped away when sports went ended, so I was like, okay, I'll do mine. So I appreciate you all sticking around for that. I hope you enjoyed that story a story from St. Louis. I appreciate everything you all brought to the table tonight. Ember, of course. Love you, babe. All you people watching out there, hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. Hit the like button and go back and maybe watch previous week's content. We last week, for instance, we covered a lot about the DNC, basically all the representatives, all their leading representatives kind of abandoning us. So go back and look into that, kind of see where we are on this thing, because a lot of people seem to be confused about where we are politically. So
and shout out to our friend Cory Booker for taking Strom Thurmond down a peg. That's awesome. It's the best.
All right. Well, this has been the Transpositions. Thank you so much for joining us. And you have a
thanks, everybody.
Night. Yeah. Got to push the button, Steph.
I guess that means I got to push the button, right?
It's button time. Button. Who's got the button?